Welcome to the Honors Lecture Series on Global Engagement. My name is Dr. Philip Phillips, and I am the Associate Dean of the University Honors College. Very pleased to welcome our speaker today, Dr. Kim Sokoya, who is Professor and Associate Dean for Graduate and Executive Education at the Jones College of Business here at MTSU. He earned his doctorate at Mississippi State University and teaches various courses in international management, strategic management, and a whole host of other things. He is published in the Journal of African Business, the International Executive, the International Journal of Value-Based Management International, Journal of Public Administration, and the Journal of Global Business. He's also a member of the International Academy of African Business and Development and serves on the editorial board for the Journal of African Business. Dr. Sokoya has led a number of study abroad programs to various places around the world, including Japan, France, Finland, Sweden, and China. So he is a very well-traveled person, and I'm sure he will be an engaging speaker. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Sokoya.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I am going to talk about globalization and U.S. competitiveness. I have 55 minutes, and normally I have like 3 hours. And so I'm going to kind of give you a cliff note, and I've tried to do this in such a way that you can ask me a lot of questions, all right? I am going to say some things to you that are just my opinion about globalization and U.S. competitiveness. And so you need to make sure that you check me out on some of my facts and some of the things I'm telling you. But I'm also going to try to be very objective about some things that I think we need to do as a country to be very competitive. And so what I have done is to kind of give you a quick outline, and you all can have this after I'm done. I'm going to kind of talk about globalization. I used to have a professor that says the important thing is to have a definition. And so I am going to start with what I consider the definition of globalization. So we'll look at that. We'll look at the nature of globalization. Because I am going to talk about U.S. competitiveness, I am going to focus on economic globalization. I will say a little bit about social and cultural globalization, and then also talk about political globalization. Talk about what is competitiveness, some of the factors that contribute to competitiveness, how companies, U.S. companies, or even multinational companies from other places kind of deal with the issue of globalization. Then I will talk about policy implications of globalization. And then, just for full disclosure, I really like the idea of globalization, but I also know there's a dark side to globalization. And I will talk a little bit about that, okay? So those are the things that I'm going to discuss, okay, today. So what is globalization? Perhaps the most common definition is this idea of lowering or removing barriers, okay, in terms of countries dealing with one another or companies dealing with one another. And so the way I will define globalization is the lowering of barriers among countries so that factors of production can move relatively easily. Okay, and this has been going on. Some of you might be familiar with GATT, that's G-A-T-T. It's called General Agreements on Tariffs and Trade. This was started in 1947. So there have been efforts among the countries of the world to make sure that we have this idea of what? The lowering of barriers so that people can move freely, so that trade can take place. However, with the advent of technology, the idea of globalization is now on steroids. Okay, the advancement in the last 20 years in terms of lowering barriers for different reasons okay, is really on the increase. So, like I said, okay, but by the way, I probably should say this too. What I say represents my own opinion, not the Jones College of Business, not the Honors College, probably not even the opinion of my wife or my children. So, I will say this, that the reality is that what? We're living in a globalized world, and that is not going to change. No matter what kind of political statements you hear, okay, or what people say on Facebook, globalization is here to stay. And we need then to become what? Engaged global citizens as a result of that, okay? So that is the reality of our environment. I'm going to talk about just 3 types of globalization, and then I'm going to camp out on the economic globalization. Social and cultural globalization, as the humans interacting with one another across national boundaries. And that continues to happen. As a result of this, we have some things that are very similar. We can consume music, across national boundaries. Myself and my wife, we were in Dominican Republic, and I don't really do modern day music very well, but there's a guy on Voice, which is a TV show, has tattoo all over him, isn't it? Adam Levine. So we're in Dominican Republic, and there are all these big road signs with Adam Levine. And I said to my wife, isn't that the guy on Voice? And he goes, yeah. And I'm like, so what is he doing here? I'm like, hey, the guy barely speaks English. I think he speaks Southern. But he is very popular in Dominican Republic. People there consume the same type of what? Music that you all consume. So we see that. Music, art, humanities. So there's that kind of social culture, right? Everybody uses Facebook. Everybody uses what? Instagram. All right? So that is happening. Then there is political globalization. Okay? This will include government and intergovernmental organizations, okay, that kind of do things across national boundaries. And I've given some examples. And I tease my students that sometimes I can move things in the world so that I can have great examples in my class. Okay, so this just happened this weekend, the last example there, right? What happened in Saudi Arabia? Anybody knows? In Saudi Arabia, okay, the crown prince arrested all of his cousins, okay, that were also kind of what? In the, family, and locked them up in Ritz-Carlton, which is not a bad place to get locked up in, okay? All right? Lock them all up in Ritz-Carlton, okay? Because there's some kind of stuff going on, okay, in terms of insurgency among the Saudi family, all right? Why is that of a concern to us? So guess what happened between Friday and this morning? The price of gas what? Increased. As a result of what? These guys in robes, okay, someplace in Saudi Arabia, okay, having this what? Family issues. And now I have to pay for more gas. I have to pay more for gas as a result of that. And so again, we need to be cognizant of what is happening, okay, around the world, not just what is happening in Rutherford County or the state of Tennessee. And so that kind of happened this weekend, so I can use it as an example, okay, for my lecture today, all right? Okay, so those kind of things, okay, we need to know. This is where I want to camp out on, the idea of economic globalization, the increasing interdependence, okay, among countries around the world so that factors of production can move. Classical economics talks about factors of production being land, labor, and capital. Okay, most of the time we don't move land, right? For obvious reasons. Okay? So we talk about the movement of what? Labor and the movement of capital. However, there is something about land that is different nowadays. Okay, which is not just vast areas of what they call arable land, but infrastructure. And so when an economy develops good infrastructure, the tendency is that businesses will move that way because the infrastructure is there. So some of the infrastructure that businesses are looking for these days will be things like internet connectivity, good roads, good airports, so that they can move products and services across national boundaries. Okay, and that is going on. Technology has accelerated that. So there's a big Japanese company, they make cars called Toyota. Right? And they make cars all over the world. One of their suppliers happens to be in Smithville, Tennessee. You know where Smithville is? It's east of here. Very, very small place. But this guy, okay, in East, or the small company in East Tennessee, fabricates stuff, okay, and he got into the supply chain of Toyota because he was able to go on the computer and bid to supply a small part for Toyota. Right? Without technology, he wouldn't have been able to do that. Toyota does not really care where the guy was from. All they wanted was what? Good quality parts at what? Low cost. Right? And we see more and more of that. Okay, the guy in Smithville has no problem with globalization. All right? Okay, we see more and more of that is going on. Okay, this is what we see now. Okay, economic globalization has blurred the distinction between domestic policies and what we refer to as what? Foreign policies. Okay, what we do in the States will have an impact on some other economies. And we've known that for a long time. The new reality, though, is this. What people do in other parts of the world is now having what? Impact on us. And so we have to be what? Globally engaged. Okay? As multinational companies, we have no choice. People talk about climate change. Okay? And I was sharing with this young man that I am one of those people that have come lately to this idea of making sure the environment is clean and making sure that we practice sustainable management. Right? People are talking about climate change. And so using of fossil fuels, okay, people want to what? Reduce that. Okay? Guess which country has one of the major problems with pollution? China. Guess which country is promoting climate change? China. But guess what? China supplies 30% of the solar industry components. So if all of those countries sign up on this climate change thing, guess who is going to gain? China. All right? So the policies that are happening can have impact on different industries. And so we need to know what the rules and the regulations, what the policies are, so that we can see how it affects us. And businesses now are doing a good job, okay, of that. Okay? Major trends in economic globalization. Major trends in economic globalization. The first one is the fact that economic globalization is driven by knowledge. You're with me? All right? It used to be that you had to have plenty of land or plenty of oil, right? You all know who Bill Gates is, right? You all know who Jack Ma is? Anybody? See, I threw that in there just to throw you off, right? Jack Ma is the guy that started Alibaba. You all know what Alibaba is, right? The online company that sells all sorts of junk from China, right? Okay? You all know who Sergey Brin is, right? Anybody? How many of you ever used Google? Okay, that was a graduate student, okay, that started, okay, Google, right? These guys have no what? Land. They have no oil. All they have is what? Knowledge. Okay, and this is something that is happening now, and catch this. That has no national physical boundaries, right? Human capital can move without that individual what? Moving. So we have companies in the United States that employ thousands of people in Hungary, thousands of people in India, because in those places they can get what? That human capital, okay, that knowledge. Okay, that is something that is very important now. Increasing importance of financial instruments in trade. You go to Walmart, all sorts of junk from China, right? Okay, this a source of what? Goods and services moving up, okay, all across the world. The number one commodity in trade is money. Okay, billions of dollars, okay, moving every minute across national boundaries. Okay, and that's a big thing. Okay, because if you have capital, okay, and you move that capital to where knowledge, human capital is, then you can produce stuff. All right, and because of technology, because of lowering of barriers, it's now easy to move what? Capital. All right, and so we need to be aware of that. Many large, let's see, cultural convergence is the third one. Okay, I did not make that word up. Some Japanese guy made that word up. Californization of needs. And what he was referring to is the fact that everybody everywhere now wants what? The same thing. Right? Now, he kind of assumed that California leads the way. And so everybody wants to consume the same thing. And so there's this kind of cultural convergence. And as a result of that, I can sell a lot of stuff everywhere. I just don't have to sell where? In my home country. Okay, because of this cultural convergence. And so one of our biggest exports in the United States is entertainment. That's why Adam Levine, okay, is in what? Dominican Republic. Okay? That's where all these movies go from what? Everywhere, right? Now we have movies coming from India, okay, to the United States. All right? So a lot of what? A lot of movement. Many large TNC, okay, TNC is transnational corporation. And this is the nomenclature that UN uses. Most of us will say MNC, which is multinational company. But the idea of a transnational company is the fact that what? The company will do business in what? Multiple countries, not just in what? One country or two countries, okay, but this interdependency among the different countries. Multinational or TNCs, multinational companies, have budgets and assets that are larger than most of the other nations. If you rank assets and GDP, okay, if you have US, China, you know, their GDP will be very high. But by the time you get to number 6, you're looking at what? ExxonMobil, okay, Walmart, which means they are bigger than what? A lot of countries in the world. And as a result of that, they have a lot of power. So they do not look, okay, at countries in terms of doing business. They look at what? The world. And so if something is not very attractive in country A, they don't see any problem in moving to what? Country B to go do business. Because at the end of the day, what they want is to increase, we say in business, shareholder value so they can do very well. Okay? And I'll talk about that, okay, in a minute. All right? This has implications. This idea, okay, that we trade in all of these areas has implications for production, where we locate production facilities. All right? Where we employ people. The impact of tax policies. I have 2 examples here, okay, and some of you might remember this. Carrier, the companies that make what? Air conditioning, right? Anybody remember hearing anything about this during the election or anything going on last year? This was the plant that one of the presidential candidates promised that they will keep jobs in the country. Right? Okay, so that was what? October, November 2016. That plant in Indianapolis has shifted 600 jobs as of July 2017 to Mexico. That was not done to slight anybody. That was a business decision because conditions in Mexico for carrier was much better than the condition were in Indianapolis. All right? Okay? Apple. All right, you're familiar with it, right? You all use this, right? Okay? Jersey. Do you all know where Jersey is? Where? You go, okay, see, that's another one, okay? This is Jersey, not like in New Jersey by New York. This is Jersey in what? An island in the English channels. All right? So, here it is, okay? And you can check me out on this. Apple used to do a lot of business in such a way that most of their profit will show up in Ireland. And because Ireland has good tax, corporate tax, okay, what do you call it, structure, they were keeping a lot of their money there. Okay? So Mr. Cook, that happens to be the president of Apple, got called in to come and testify about why they were not paying taxes. And he said they pay as much tax as the law allows them to pay, which was probably true. All right. So this happened in the States, and Apple happened in England. People in Ireland did not like the fact that Mr. Cook and Apple were using Ireland as a way of what? Avoiding taxes. So they started changing what? The law. Right? In Ireland. So guess what Apple did? Apple went looking for a country where the tax policies are going to favor it, right? Jersey is probably about as big as half of Murfreesboro or less. Okay? Apple has $250 billion in Jersey. Okay? They stashed all of their money there because the tax policies are what? Much better, right? Now, how many of you think that's bad? Don't show your hands, okay? All right? But if you happen to be a stockholder in Apple, chances are that this is what? Good for you. Right? Now, why is Apple doing that? Is just because they are mean? I don't think so. I think they are doing that so they can show what? Bigger profit for their investors. And they will do that by looking for what? An environment that will make that what? Okay. All right? Now, again, my opinion. The U.S. now has a tax, what do you call it, proposal to cut corporate income tax from like 35% to 20%. One of the reasons given is the fact that that will help corporations stay where? In the United States. Sounds plausible. But guess what other countries are going to do? Chances are that what? If they want that company to be there, they will also do what? Change their what? Tax policies. Huh? Race to bottom, okay? That's a good way to put it, okay? So you need to kind of understand, okay, what is going on, okay, in different places, all right? What do we mean by U.S. competitiveness? So I'm talking about globalization and U.S. competitiveness. What do we mean by U.S. competitiveness? Comparison to other nations in terms of economic performance, government efficiency, business efficiency, infrastructural development. And I'm going to camp out on business efficiency because multinational companies or transnational companies are the major vehicles, okay, of doing business. All right. But we need to look at all these areas when we are looking at what? U.S. competitiveness. Dr. Phillips mentioned the fact that I do study abroad in Finland. Okay, Finland has one of the best educational systems in the world. They don't have private schools. Everybody goes to the same what? Public school. Right? And their students do very well. And guess what? They have the skills. And so they are able to employ a lot of people within Finland to do business. That is part of what? The efficiency. Cool? I don't know. I've been to Amsterdam. I've never lived in Holland any long time. But my understanding is you could do your taxes at Starbucks in 20 minutes. Okay? In Holland. Right? Okay? You cannot do your taxes, okay, in 20 days. Okay? In the United States. Right? Okay? That's part of what? Okay? Government efficiency. Guess what? All of this type of stuff will either attract or distract what? Businesses. Because it's all about transactional cost. And so when businesses move, they are looking at all of these things. All right? Now, I checked this out, okay, on Friday. The U.S. is still number 3 when you rank competitiveness. Okay? So we're not losing a whole lot. But guess what? As we're running, guess what's happening? People are running behind us, trying to catch up, okay, to us. And so we need to make sure that we're competitive, okay? There is no doubt that other countries are not staying behind. I've done study abroad in China for the last 2 years, okay, a total of about 16 students. And every single one of them said, oh my goodness, these people are more developed than we thought. All right? And so we need, okay, to be, what do you call it? We need to be very competitive. All right? These are the factors, in my opinion, that contribute, okay, to national competitiveness. Okay, the development of infrastructure. Okay, our ability to move goods and services, people quickly across the country. All right, railroad system, airline system, or any kind of infrastructure. Development of skilled labor. Okay, and I say this not because I'm an educator, but this is true. If you don't have skilled labor and you don't train people very well, okay, you are not going to do well this day and age because of the dependence on what? Human capital. All right? Enable the environment that will help reduce transactional cost. Okay, I would do business if I know that my cost of doing business is cheaper in your country than another country. You're following me? All right? If I have to pay a whole lot, then your country will not be what? As attractive. And so we've got to figure a way of making sure that the transactional cost is low. And this is not just about money. Now, there's money there. You can see that, monetary and fiscal policy. But think about rule of law. How long does it take to register a company? A day? 12 days? How many papers do you have to fill out, okay, to get your business registered? All of those things companies think about. All right? Property law. Do you have a country where the right to ownership is guaranteed by law? Or do you want to go to Venezuela with the opportunity of what? Somebody waking up one morning and going, hey, you don't have that anymore. That belongs to us. Okay? These things are important. All right? The other thing is the clusters of innovation. 25, 30 years ago, no respectable Frenchman will drink wine from California. Because wine from California was what? No good. Right? Fast forward. Wines from California, okay, is now considered what? Very good. What happened in 25, 30 years? The state of California created a cluster of innovation. The best research university, my understanding, is UC Davis, which happens to be where? In the wine country. All that is needed, apart from the natural, what they call it, climate and slope of land, all that is needed to make sure that they have good grapes and produce good wine, they've invested money in. And as a result of that, companies that want to do well in producing wine go to that area where there's a cluster. All right? And those clusters are just not in California. For different industries, you have clusters everywhere. Fortunately, we have one in Nashville. Okay, 2 clusters in Nashville. Healthcare is one. And hey, what's the other one? You all should know. Country music, exactly. All right? So you find people in Nashville that want to do country music because the cluster is there. So having a cluster of innovation, okay, is very important. This is a diagram, okay, and we don't have the time to digest all of this. But this guy, his name is Michael Porter, came up with this, and he suggested that if a country wants to be competitive, these 4 factors have to be around. Okay? That there has to be factor endowment. And by factor endowment, he was referring to things like skilled labor, good infrastructure. All right? Those things have to be around. This is related and supporting industries. That's the idea of cluster. And his argument is this. If you have companies that are related to one another and supply one another, the level of competition is going to be high, and so the level of innovation will be what? Will be very high. So for example, if you want to be in the business of making stuff that uses chips, not the Frito-Lay type, okay, the IC chips, where will you go in this country? Huh? Where? Silicon Valley, right? Somebody said that, right? So you check Silicon Valley out. Silicon Valley has all that it takes to do that. All these big companies that are in that industry are right there. Some of the best engineering schools that will supply what? Skilled labor, right there. Venture capitalists, okay, are what? Right there. So if you really want to do well, you're better off, okay, in that industry going to California and Silicon Valley. And that is what it meant by what? A cluster. Demand conditions. I like this one. It talks about for your country to be very good, there must be sophisticated demand in that country. And his argument is this, that if there is sophisticated demand, then the producers in the country will come up with what? Good products. And they can sell those products not only what? Within your country, but also where? Outside. Okay, so I do this all the time when I talk about this. If you want to get a pair of really good shoes, where will you go? Come on. Talk to me. Huh? What country will you think about getting a pair of really good leather shoes? You go where? Italy. All right? And that was what he found out. Why? He says, look, the reason is because what? Italians what? Care a whole lot about what? The fashion. Right? So they have sophisticated demand. And as a result of that, they've come up with what? Producers that will meet that. And not only are they doing that for Italians, they're doing it for what? Everybody, right? Okay, second one, okay? This one is probably easier. If you want a well-engineered car, huh? Germany, right? Okay, and he argues that the reason why Germans are able to produce what? Well-engineered cars is because what? The population in Germany has demanded that what? For a long time. So that's what he meant by what? Sophisticated demand, all right? And then he talks about the fact that there has to be what? Good rivalry. If there's good rivalry in your country, your companies will be able to do what? Come up with good strategy and structure. These are the things that he referred to as making a country what? Very, what do you call it? Very competitive. All right? companies are the major vehicles, okay? And I'm watching my time here, okay? Companies are the major vehicles. But I got plenty of time, but I want you all to ask me questions. So that's why, okay? So companies are the major vehicles of commerce, okay? And the going concern of companies is that they must be efficient, do things what? Very well, so that they can make money for their what? For their shareholders, all right? So I'm going to jump here and show you this. And some of you might not be able to read this, okay? This is what companies deal with all the time. We refer to this as a value chain, all right? And every company has to go through this. You get supplies, okay? Then you take those supplies, you turn them into the product or the service, then you distribute the final product, okay? Then you do sales and marketing, and you service. If you do the first 5 very well, your margin will go up. Cool? At every stage in this activity chain, there's cost associated with it. You're with me? So if I can reduce the cost at every stage and have good quality, then my profit margin will be what? Will be higher. So let's say both of us are in the business of making a soft drink. Okay? She has to buy plastic bottles. I have to buy what? Plastic bottles. Right? If she is buying plastic bottles at a lower price than I'm buying it, then she's able to charge what? A little less than I'm able to charge. Then her profit margin will be what? High. What will I do? I will look for what? A place to get what? Cheaper what? Plastic bottles. Or look for, okay, something that is what? Cheaper to put what? The soft drinks. Right? So what I'm trying to do is what? I'm trying to make sure that my what? Cost of supply is lower than what? My competitors. You're following me? The same thing is true. Operations. If it's costing me more to produce than it's costing her to produce, then she's in a better what? Competitive position. Guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to try and find out the way to do the same thing. Or do it what? Cheaper. Right? You're following me? The same thing is true at every single stage. So guess what happens? Because of globalization, this is now changed. Everything now, okay, is like, look, I'm looking for suppliers. I'm not just looking in Murfreesboro. I'm just not looking in Nashville. I'm looking where? Everywhere what? In the world. So if the cheapest supplier happens to be in Timbuktu, which by the way is a particular place, all right? Okay, then I will go to Timbuktu and do what? Use that person. You're following me? Globalization has made the value chain, okay, very, very competitive because people are looking. The guy in Smithville that I mentioned to you is a supplier to Toyota, right? The reason is because what? He has good quality, he has good price, he's supplying Toyota, so Toyota can make what? A car. Cool? So this is what companies use, all right? So we got to drive efficiency at every stage of the value chain. I'm going to jump to this highlighted part, okay, the red part. The globalization of the value chain changes transaction cost constantly. So guess what companies do? They go look at the value chain and look everywhere in the world for where they can get what? Supplies. Where they can get somebody to produce for them. Okay, and as a result of that, they're changing their strategies. At each stage of the value chain, okay, this has resulted into some form of global strategy. All right? So those are the different stages of the value chain. Okay, and so one of the things that you hear a whole lot about is outsourcing. Why do we outsource? We outsource because somebody can do what? Do it better than we can. All right? Not because we really like them. It's just because what? They are better at doing it, so we outsource to them. There's something called offshoring. Okay? The idea of going to a foreign country to go produce something there. Why do we do that? Because the environment there in that foreign country is much better in terms of what? Transaction costs. So we do offshoring. So go back to my Indiana career, okay, example. I don't think those guys really have anything against people in Indiana. Okay, it's just like what? If you're going to buy an air conditioner, you want to buy what? Good air conditioner at what? Cheap, at the cheapest price, right? If I can make it cheaper in what? In Mexico, then I'll go make it there because then what? I'm able to sell to you. So then what do people in Indiana, what should people in Indiana do? They should try and find ways of what? Making it what? Cheaper there. All right? And there can be a number of ways, okay, that can be done. All right? So these are some of the areas, okay. Now, I'm going to kind of go to this because there's some examples. Diversification. How many of you are familiar with that company? BASF Germany. One of the biggest chemical company in the world. They started by making sodium bicarbonate in the 1800s. All right? They made, what do you call that thing? Cassette tapes. You all know what that was? Okay, all right. It's on YouTube. You can see it. Okay? I'm sure you do. Okay? They make cassette tapes, right? They make 8-track tapes. Okay? Their biggest stuff now is they're making chemicals for construction companies. They are no longer, okay, doing the things that they used to do because what? Other countries or other companies are what? Able to do it what? Much better. Cool? Second example, GE appliances. You know, those people that bring good things to life. Right? GE does not make appliances anymore. How many of you know that? Right? GE, a number of years ago, sold their appliance division to a company called Heiha, right? Which I'm not sure I'm pronouncing very right, but that is a Chinese company. They make all those appliances. GE doesn't make it anymore. Why is GE doing that? Because it does not pay GE to make appliances here anymore to sell because there are other places that can make it better and cheaper, right? Some of us, when we were in school, IBM was it. You get a laptop, I get an IBM, oh my goodness. IBM does not make laptops anymore. They're out of that business. They sold the company about 10, 12 years ago to a company called Lenovo. This is another Chinese company. It is not because, okay, IBM liked Chinese people. It's because what? That business was no longer good for them because the transaction cost was what? Was too much. All right? So they divested what? That business. All right? We see companies go to other places to look for different resources. You're with me? All right? So this is ongoing. All right? So, looking at time here. What do we do? What should we do? To me, these are some of the implications. We need to create an enabling environment so that we can become competitive. Good education, rule of law, good monetary and fiscal policies, not something that will last for 4 years, but something that will last for what? A long time. All right? I like this last one. Worldwide learning. We do not have the monopoly on knowledge in this country anymore. Neither does any country have a monopoly on knowledge. So we got to figure out how to learn from other people, other companies. There's a company in India called Tata. Very, very, profitable company. They've done very well serving what we refer to as the bottom of the pyramid. How are they able to do that and still make money when they're serving some of the poorest people in the world? We can learn from that, okay, and the examples of that, all right? So, all may not be well with globalization. Okay, this is the dark side, all right? It helps people, gives freedom, but sometimes it also robs people of what? Dignity, right? There is a documentary which you can go check out. It's called True Cost. Okay? You got to be brave. Okay, this is about people in Bangladesh making, apparel, so that we can buy cheap clothes from H&M. All right? Not a very good thing, in my opinion, because it robbed them of what? Human rights and dignity, just because we want to buy $10 pairs of jeans. All right? So there are bad sides, okay, to globalization. All right? So this is what I will leave you with. All right? Globalization will impact us, either for good or evil. We cannot remain untouched. We need, as citizens, to be globally engaged. You need to learn from other people. You need to learn what is going on in other places so that you can be well informed. All right? There is an end to corporate imperialism. We cannot do things the way we used to do it because other people are getting what? Smarter and smarter. Cool? Avoid the fallacy of single-story narratives. You've heard me go for about 40 minutes now. This is my story. That's my single story. You got to check me out, okay? Don't just go, oh, Dr. Sokoya said this, then that's true, all right? It may be, most likely it's true, okay? But, okay, still go check it out. And you need to do that with every information that you get. Just don't listen to one side. Listen to what? Multiple sides before you make your decision, all right? Thank you for having me. So you can ask me questions now, and I will answer. Thank you. Thank you.
We've got about 5 minutes, so questions.
Yes.
How would you persuade to the American electorate that globalization is something that has value and is valid?
By teaching my class every day with passion. I mean, really, I always say to my colleagues and some of my friends that when we make the wrong decision about some stuff, maybe some of the fault is on us educators because we've not done what? A good job in educating the population. And I think what I would say is what I just said a minute ago. Avoid single-story narratives. Just try and find out, okay, is there some other option? And the work of a university is this idea of having what? Knowledge. And trying to, verify whether it is true or not. And so we need to create an environment where people can ask questions without feeling being, put down upon. And also give honest answers without feeling that what? Somebody's going to clamp down on you. And we're going to do that over and over and over and over again. Democracy is not a great thing, but it's the best thing we got. Okay?
Any questions? Questions?
You have talked a lot about trade per se. There's been a lot of opposition among our politicians to being in trade agreements. Generally, could you make an argument that both sides tend to benefit from increased trade or not?
There is no doubt in my mind, yes, that is true. Increased trade. And some guy that lived so long ago named Adam Smith, and some guy that lived around about the same time named David Ricardo, they've mentioned this. Trade is always good. Now, I'm not suggesting that there are not some bad aspects, but if you are protectionist, you're going to have less. The more free trade you have, the better it is for what? Your citizens. You all remember Adam Smith, right? You know, an inquiry into the wealth of nations. And his thesis is simply this, that if you trade, you have more goods and services to better your population. Yes, so trade is always good. I do, for some reason, for the last 3 weeks, I've been kind of in this situation talking about this, right? There are some things we cannot do, we cannot undo. We were able to turn the hand of the clock back this past weekend. There are some things we cannot do like that, right? So, for example, coal is not going to be primary source of energy. That's gone. That's just the reality of it. So then what do? We need to come up with policies that will help people get educated, train them in other areas so they don't depend on that. But to say to them that, oh, don't worry, coal will come back. Okay, if you believe that, 8-track will come back. You all know what 8-track is? You all know what 8-track is, right? Google it. You all know what cassette tapes are? Okay, that was before, well, 8-track was before cassette tapes. I'm only 30 years old. I know all of that. Yeah. Any other questions?
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.